Welcome back to another lovely draft edition episode of the Purple Rain podcast. Yes, welcome back to another lovely Monday edition of the Purple Rain podcast, episode 306. So allow me to go through real quick. The Johnny Townsend, Patrick Queen, Stephen Hauschka, and most recently Anthony Miller episode of the Purple Rain podcast. Thank you all for spending your Monday evenings with us. We love you. We appreciate you. And as always, you can follow us on Instagram at the Purple Rain podcast. Follow this guy right here on Instagram, on X at Sutton Def. Me, Instagram simply as10.prod, X simply as10, and right below me actually, you can follow this guy here on X at Huddled Up Films, talking all things draft. It's that time of the year. I know we're all ready for it, and that's what we're here to talk about tonight. I'm ready for it. He's ready for it. I hope you're ready for it, Sutton. We were talking about it
Yeah.
before, but a lot of good stuff to get into. But I gotta first ask, how are things going? How we doing? How we feeling? How we living?
Yeah, Jason, what's going on,
Oh,
man?
hey, living large, man, living large. This is a fun time because all the work is done. All the work has been done for a few weeks now, so it's just going back, double checking. I'm loving the people who suggest names to me. More players studied this year than last year by about 40. So I missed some guys, and there's somebody actually I'm going to be adding to the board somewhere. I got to figure out where after the show and in between when I start my show tonight. Uh, just a really fun time to just kind of cherry pick the board and not have to a list of things that I want to accomplish tonight.
Yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for coming on. And this is kind of like an annual thing. It's a tradition now here at the Purple Rain podcast. We got to get our guy Jason on and
Man,
draft
thanks
season
for
because
having me. I should have said that. Yeah,
no, of
thanks.
course, man. You are going to make the show tonight. Trust me, I promise you. So we appreciate having you on, man. You are our Mel Kiper, for lack of better words. So thank you for coming on, man.
Get my
But
hair
okay.
right.
Let me see who we have live here in the chat. We have our guy Dylan Paul in the house. What's going on, Dylan? Appreciate you for pulling up, coming through. We also have Lisa Ann in the house as well. Says, hey, Alex and Sutton Def. I cannot wait until draft night. Bring it on. Right there with you, Lisa. Zeke Kokage is also in the house. Says, what's good, PRP? What's good, Zeke? Appreciate you for coming through. How are you? Let us know down below in the chat. Listen, I have the big board, right? Jason's big board that we have to get to where I want him to kind of break that down and give us some context on, based on like what we're looking at, things like that. But before we do that, it's been a while, Jason, since we've talked to you. So let's just kind of like break the ice really quick with like, what is your current, like, I don't know, assessment of the Ravens, of this franchise? We haven't talked since before the playoffs and things like that. So let us know where your head is at with this Ravens team. Like, are you confident going into next season? Do you think it'll just be more of the same? Like, where are you at with it?
So I'm more confident right now than I was at this time last year. I mean, if you rewind to last year and lost Patrick Queen, lost Stone, lost Clowney, lost Darby, lost Zeitler, lost Morgan Moses. We signed Derrick Henry, which was great. I think that worked out better than even we could have expected. But at this time last year, I was like, look, we got Lamar. We always have a chance. But I wasn't all very optimistic compared to other fans of the team. This year, the opposite. I mean, we got the same squad coming back, and really excited about this draft as an opportunity to use it as an opportunity to get deep, to get good depth on the team, fill a starting hole maybe at cornerback, maybe the spot next to Roquan. There's some competition there. But overall, I mean, if you look, this is a rare year, guys, where we have pretty much everybody coming back. Of course, Brandon Stevens is gone, Malik and Chris Board made their way out, but we have a lot of talented players coming back. So, I'm not always a homerish. I try to be middle of the road. That's kind of my approach in life. This year, more excited about the year than I was last year, to be honest.
Got it. Nice, nice. Alex, what do you say to that? Because I feel like we've kind of had a slightly different tone here on this podcast. You and I have. So how do you respond to that?
I'm quite literally the same. I've been saying it. 13 or 14 win team next year. The receipts are on here somewhere if you want to look it up. I'm right there. Like I feel like the people we lost or the players we lost, kind of addition by subtraction in some facets. So yeah, I do think we're going to be a good team next year. I think that we have a hard schedule, but it can only make us better. And as long as we're healthy come the playoffs, and having a really good draft, which I think we will, hoping that we talked about it, maybe package up a pick or two to move up or get a player that we know can really help this team out, like a Rosengarten did last year. Maybe
Mhm.
trade back in the second round. I wouldn't hate that. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I think you can get a couple of day one starters, hopefully two, just like last year, and get some good depth and just run it back and hopefully have a different outcome this year.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I can see that, and like you said, there are receipts of you having that optimism. But I also remember times where we were kind of like doom and gloom on the pod, especially like after maybe like a couple weeks after the season was over, just because I don't know. I think this not the culture surrounding the team, but just kind of like there's a certain stigma right now, that the Ravens just aren't able to get it done in the playoffs. And I think that that really comes back to coaching. I know that this is not the time of year to be talking about coaching. John Harbaugh actually just signed an extension with the Ravens. So, not Alex, but Jason, tell me what you thought about that. John Harbaugh signing an extension a year early.
Inevitable, inevitable. So I try to tend not to stress or overthink things that I pretty sure are going to happen. So I think Harbaugh itself, my assessment of coach. Far be it from me. I've never coached at any kind of level like that, but I feel like it's like anybody that you've been with for a long time, whether they're your friend or your significant other, where you know what they do well, what makes you happy. You know what they do. It just keeps getting on your nerves and it grinds at you. The longer you're with that person, and the same with Harbaugh. I think that you got to remember his strengths in his culture building. His credibility as a coach and the way that he's always supported Lamar, the relationship that he has with his quarterback, I think is very good. And then there's also things about Harbaugh that, that get on my nerves. I don't always think that the best players play. I think the loyalty factor comes into I'm being loyal to Alex, for example, but maybe Alex is hurting the team. So then now I'm not being loyal to the other 52 guys on the team. I'm just being loyal to Alex. And I think we've seen examples of that's really the thing. People will point to challenges and, it's that type of thing, decision to go for it with two. I'm always going to disagree with my coach on stuff like that, no matter who the coach is. And when I watch games on Sunday, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that. I would have went for it or so on and so forth. But with Harbaugh, I think he has his strengths and weaknesses, and I think he's going to be here as long as he decides. I think his relationship with Bisciotti and Eric DaCosta point to the fact that Harbaugh is going to retire here, in my opinion.
Yeah, could totally see that for sure. No, great answer on that one. I mean, that was kind of like our analysis as well. But very fair criticisms of John Harbaugh for sure. They're definitely there. Okay, now look, I have this big board pulled up. I want to go ahead and throw it on the screen for everybody to see. Now, before we kind of like take a dive into what we have here, Jason, I want you to just kind of like break down and explain exactly what it is we're looking at, so people can kind of know how to visually map their eyes around this. Let us know what we're looking at here.
Sure. So what you have up now, I appreciate you bringing it up, is the rankings by position. And a lot of times, guys, this is the easiest way to look at it. The big board itself can get jumbled. But what you see there in the green, the dark green stands out. There are only two players this year in which I have categorized a true first round grade. The way I was taught way back in the 90s is a true first round grade is a perennial Pro Bowl player, a guy who would go in the first round in any draft, the top of the first round in any draft, a guy you put the last two or three drafts together, still solidly a first rounder. So Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter falls into those categories. And I think this draft has gotten a bad rep because there are only two players I have in that dark green, the two consensus best players in this draft who aren't quarterbacks. After that, you have the other guys in green, the predicted first round guys. These are guys that I think will go in the first round. And if you look around in the mock drafts, other people will have them consistently in the first round. So you get that grade. The next grade in the orange are your second round grades. These are guys that you project as starters. That number will fluctuate greatly from year to year. I believe this year I have 51 guys with that grade. And then, as the colors change, the value of the prospects change. So predicted first day or predicted day two guys that will go in the second and third round are in the purple. And really, where the board, this is where I would stress on this long soliloquy here. The guys in the blue and above, those are really the players that you're targeting in this
Mm,
draft. You don't need 200 picks. You know, they're going to list a bunch of guys, but you don't need 200 prospects to list. You are going to usually get the guys who fit your team. So those
yeah.
guys in the blue and above are really who we want to, in my opinion, target throughout the draft because some of those guys will last till the sixth round. We have all those picks in the 200. Some of those guys will last.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, amazing stuff. Honestly, what you've put together here is a super useful tool that I hope a lot of people can take a look at because I know when I saw this and I was seeing how you had it color coded and broken down, and it makes a lot of sense. You're saying like any person who's blue or up is somebody that you really would value on your team. So before we dive a little bit deeper into that, just want to preface it with this question, Jason, and I want you to go ahead and answer this question, and then Alex, I want you to give your rebuttal to it as well, and we'll just kind of go around the horn on it. So, first question, and then I'll put the big board back up so you can kind of reference that too. So, with the Ravens having several needs like cornerback, edge, offensive line, how would you prioritize those in this draft class based on the depth and talent at each position?
That's a great question, Sutton. That's where it is for me because I think like all of us can relate who have played fantasy football. It's like, do I get my quarterback now, or do I need to take the running back now? Because man, by the time I picks again, there's not going to be any running backs left. This class is incredibly deep at defensive tackle. It's an odd year for that. Usually, you have to squint to see past like five guys who are big enough to defend the run and can two gap and things like that, but guys that also offer pass rush upside. It's just a tough position to play. This year, more defensive tackles are listed. So if they want to go inside, they can do that throughout the draft. The position that I keep coming back to, and this is just a personal thing for me, there are three guards that I have in the orange, true second round grades. You're talking about Tyler Booker, you're talking about Donovan Jackson, and Gray Zabel. And I know guards, there's only been one selected in the first round in the last 2 years combined. But you can see the fall off there, Sut, as you bring it up. It goes from there are no guys in the green. It goes from orange to purple real fast. So look at that compared to the edge class, compared to the corners. There's always a ton of corners. The other needs that the Ravens have, even the safeties. I think if you really wanted to get value, and I doubt the Ravens do it, but I would love to see them take one of those guards or safeties with their first round pick because the drop off is heavier there than it is at edge, at defensive line, and other positions.
Hmm, love that, Alex.
Yeah, I've obviously kind of made my mind up, and I want to get O line first round, but you see here, I obviously want us to get these trenches as well. And we've talked about Michael Pierce now retiring. That's 300 and some odd pounds you have to replace, and it's not going to be easy. And you see the depth that is there on the D line. So we have hit previously, round 3, round 4 on those guys in the trenches that you know is now one of the highest paid defensive linemen in the league, Justin Madubuike. So, or sorry, not Nani Madubuike. And I'm still just I can't get away from improving this line, unfortunately. And I saw the whole list that came out how we have the lowest paid offensive line, and that's kind of misleading because we do have our All Pro center on a rookie contract. But I still want to invest in that and kind of make this offense unstoppable. And I think that's the final step. So I'm still for that O line first round, and then you can get that defensive line and maybe edge day 2.
Yeah, yeah, and I think those are that's a really good thing to kind of prioritize in this draft, the O line. However, I will give you this. So one big thing that a lot of Ravens fans complain about, including myself, was that the Ravens don't force enough turnovers. They don't force enough. They don't cause enough havoc on defense, right? Especially when the going gets tough in the playoffs. I think there's some sort of crazy stat out there that under the Lamar Jackson regime, they've only forced like maybe what 2 turnovers, 3 turnovers, in like total in those playoff games. Unacceptable, especially when you have teams like the Eagles who just won the Super Bowl forcing how many turnovers did they force in the postseason? I think like over 6, something like that, 6, maybe 7. It was a ridiculous number. But that's what you need to win games. So I've seen a lot of people, and this is kind of going back to Jason's point, I've seen a lot of people talking about safety being one position that the Ravens could potentially go after in the first round with that 27th pick. And one guy that a lot of people have mocked the Ravens or kind of linked him to is Malachi Starks. That's one guy who's up here, and I don't know if he's necessarily supposed to be expected to be available around that time we pick. But Jason, I want to get your take on that. Do you think that pairing him up with like a Kyle Hamilton would basically make this defense even more unstoppable, and make it so you can kind of move Kyle Hamilton move him around a little bit more and force more turnovers, or what do you think about that?
I would love that too. I think that as much as I want to reinforce this offensive line, I don't think the Ravens will do it. It's just my personal opinion. I don't think they're going to draft a guard in the first round. So when I turn around to defense, who's your best player on defense? Who's your most impactful player on defense? It's Kyle Hamilton. And, I got a little flack for using this term, but I feel like Kyle was used to basically babysit the back end last year in the Marcus Williams role. I mean, sure, he was allowed to creep up to the line some as his, as the season progressed, but basically he was playing true free safety a lot. And, to do that, he did a great job. He lined everybody up. The big plays disappeared. The defense soared after that. But at the same time, if you can get yourself somebody who can play true free safety, now you got your best player doing what he does best, which is pop up everywhere on the defense and just cause nightmares, making tackles in the backfield, tackles for loss, sacking the quarterback, erasing tight ends, doing all the things that Hamilton can do that others can't. So if we took a Malachi Starks or a Nicky Memori in the first round, or Xavier Watts is another guy who can play true free safety in that second round range, I think it would help this defense a ton. And if something happened to our Darius or Kyle, we'd be back to where we were last year, real quick. So I think it's important that the Ravens not only get a safety, but a safety who has the speed and range to cover the back end in this draft.
Yeah, yeah. And just kind of touching on the edge rushers that are available in this draft, do you see anybody, because the common theme of this Ravens offseason is Ravens fans clamoring for a quote unquote game wrecking edge, right? That's what they've been calling for. That's what honestly I've been calling for as well. I would love to see that here in Baltimore. So who do you think kind of fits that mold in terms of like positional value that the Ravens could realistically go ahead and grab?
Yeah, the term realistically is what comes into play there because, I have a number of guys in the green there. I think 5 guys in the green. I think all those guys will be gone by the time the Ravens pick. I mean, edge rusher is just such a premium position. It's expensive to pay them. So you see edge rushers go in the first round a lot. The first guy in the orange is somebody that I'm very high on. I have him ahead of Shamar Stewart, and that's Donovan Ezeraku. Heard it pronounced Ezeraku. I've heard Ezeraku. I think he's going by Ezeraku as far as I know. But 16 and a half sacks, guys. And I mean, you don't have to study the draft. If you just go on YouTube and look up his highlight tape, you can see him win in a multiple different ways. And the thing with him is his body build is something a little bit freakish. He's 6'2", but his arms are 34-inch plus arms. So you have a long player with a low center of gravity. And what he's able to do, guys, is just make left tackles have a hard time putting any kind of meaningful contact to him. He's got the outside moves. He's got the inside moves. One of the more polished pass rushers you'll see coming out of college. Cross chop, a little hop, little Euro step, inside counter, arm over swim, spin move. And these taller tackles, guys, just have a hard time getting any kind of force and putting their hands on and affecting Ezeraku because he's so low to the ground at 6'2", but he has the length to combat the length of these offensive tackles with the arms. So if you want a polished pass rusher, somebody who plays the game really hard, it's Ezeraku. He's the opposite of Shamar Stewart, who Shamar Stewart is the prototypical Ravens edge, big, strong, powerful, but he's only had a sack and a half each year for 3 years, 4.5 sacks total in his career. So Shamar Stewart is following the Adafio Way type career path where it may take him a while to develop. You don't see the elite finishing skills that you have in Donovan Ezeraku. That would be a pick I'd be extremely happy with. He gets knocked for his run defense and his play strength. But look, guys, the Ravens are going to have the lead. They're going to be trying to close out halves, close out games. Ezraku would walk in here and be one of the best pass rushers on the team from day one. And I encourage you to look up how his name's spelled. Check the big board. The links are all over my Twitter and YouTube. But just check out the highlight package and see how he accumulated these 16 and a half sacks. It's not fluky, guys. This is him getting to the quarterback in a hurry in a multitude of ways.
Wow.
How can you not
yeah.
be excited? That was very
That was
put that
I was
behind one of
just-
his tapes. That gets you freaking amped up.
Dude, think
Yeah.
Doomerville. Think Elvis Doomerville, guys. Like real short to the ground. You know what I mean? But with all these
okay.
moves and the long arms to where it doesn't matter. That's who he reminds me of. He reminds me a lot of Elvis Doomerville.
Nice. Yeah.
Like that. And I feel like I've
goodness.
been looking at a lot of edge rushers as well.
Okay.
Kind of just knowing, what we're up to, and kind of knowing what we're gonna have to be drafting. And safety wise, I'm gonna go back real quick. I like Eamon Warrior a lot out of all the safeties, but I don't think Starks would be a bad pick either. It just feels like that's kind of like if we're at 27 and the edge rushers are gone and linemen aren't there, it's like safety because you can't really go wrong with this defense. And you bring up the point about Hamilton. We weren't seeing him make it, those flashy plays at the line of scrimmage, end of the year last year, in the back end. So I would love to see him just let him play free, let him just roam around because that's when he's truly his most dangerous and defense is at his best.
Right. Yeah. We do have a super chat donation here. This one's coming from DWAS. What's going on, DWAS? Appreciate you for coming through, dropping the super chat donation in the chat here. He says, my number one guy is James Pierce out of Tennessee. Jason, what is your assessment on one James Pierce coming out of this draft?
Love James Pierce. Explosive. Probably the most explosive first 3 steps, if you want to count it that. He did a lot of walk up to the snap type things at Tennessee. Tennessee is very gimmicky on offense and defense. They play a 3-3, guys. So 3 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers behind it. And then Pierce was one of those guys, or the guy who was playing on the other side of linebacker, would walk up to the line of scrimmage, time it beautifully, get a lot of pass. The physical tools on Pierce are very enticing. The knocks on him and why I have him a tick below Ezraku and Shamar Stewart is that there are a lot of effort questions with him. I think the word I used was cakewalking through the end of reps. And then the off-field stuff has been consistent. And, I don't put a lot into the stuff that comes out right before the draft. It could be disgruntled family members or just agents or, that want their guy to pass. But like with James Pierce, you have respected people. Todd McShay was the latest that really sealed it for me, where he went into, look, there's nothing against him, but the Tennessee coaches would not recommend him to teams. He's got to leave a certain group of people behind in his life and really focus on football. So there's just a lot of like, would the Ravens touch a guy like this in the first round and make him their star employee that they're going to invest millions in? So aside from like what you see on tape, there's just a lot of smoke, and you see it in multiple scouting reports. So this isn't me just trashing the young man. I think Todd McShay went into it in the more detail than anybody else, to where it's not necessarily him, but it's a type of life that he needs to move off of. So there's some questions there, and then for a first round pick, and you're talking about the Ravens, who do a lot of background information on that kind of thing. I just don't see it. I still have Pierce in the top. I want to say I have him in the 20s on my board. Still have him at 29 on the board. I love him as a prospect, but those questions kind of held me down as far as like shooting him up the board ahead of Ezraku and Shamar Stewart and Mykel Williams.
Okay.
Yeah, adding on to that, that's how I feel about Mike Green. That's why I haven't really watched him too much. I don't think the Ravens will touch him. I'm not going to go into, the off the field stuff, but that's kind of, what we're dealing with right now with a certain player. I don't think we even, touch him if he's there. I don't think he'll be there at 27, but can't deny he's a hell of a ball player. But just, off the field stuff and, why he transferred from Virginia to Marshall. I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. Don't want to talk too much about that, but yeah, definitely agree with you with whole character concerns.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so moving right along to our next question here that we have for our lovely guest, Jason from at Huddle It Up Films. Again, thank you so much, my brother, for coming on and talking draft with us, man. This is something that is very necessary for I can't, speak for Alex, but I definitely can speak for myself. I'm learning a lot right now. So I appreciate it. I'll definitely have to be watching this episode back and going and looking at some of these guys that you're recommending. But to the next question though. Okay, so this one has a little bit more to do with the Ravens front office and the way that they're going to do things, the way that they've historically done things. So from a draft philosophy standpoint, how do you think Eric DaCosta, Ravens general manager, approaches building through this draft? Do you see any patterns or tendencies that might hint at what the Ravens could do this year potentially?
Not really. Not really. I think that the beauty of this draft, as we were talking about at the open, is that the Ravens can truly go BPA more than they always like to say they go BPA, and they have. I think Kyle Hamilton himself, with Chuck Clark on the roster at the time, is like the perfect example of that. But you know, they're going to need to get a corner. I think they double dip at corner. I also think that there are a couple of tight ends in this draft that fit that blocking profile. It would not surprise me if Mark Andrews or Charlie Kolar are traded. Um, I think that Likely is here and here to stay. He's a young player. The chemistry with Lamar, but remember when Charlie Kolar was hurt and Todd Monken got back on, they asked him the regular reporter question, what does it mean to have Charlie back? And Monken, of course, is a TMI type guy. And he's like, look, I couldn't run out the I formation without Charlie Kolar. He's that good. So you have Likely, Kolar, Andrews, Pat Ricard. All four of their contracts are expiring after this year, guys. So do you really want to turn over an entire tight end room and try to sign all four of them, or sign a free agent, or try to draft, try to fill four spots on your roster basically? So I feel like the Ravens, if they trade Andrews, they could go with more of a combo tight end, somebody that's a good receiver and can block a little bit. Or if they trade Kolar, there's a couple of tight ends in this draft who are really good blockers. It might be an upgrade from Kolar, a guy that I keep coming to. He's not going to be coveted because he's not a receiving tight end. But if you look at Jackson Halls, have him in the blue. If you go to another team's board, he's going to be lower. He'd be lower on that list. But Jackson Halls is a pancake machine out of Georgia Tech. So if a team is on the clock at, say, the fourth round, do we offer Charlie Kolar, and maybe we throw in one of our six that we have for their pick and pick Jackson Halls there? Or Thomas Fidone is another one, another blocking tight end right under him. I think that would be a sneaky move. Something that I've brought up on other pods is like, look, you don't want to go into, the Ravens are famous for not only drafting for this year, but next year. You don't want to go in next year having to replace an entire tight end room.
Hmm. Yes, good points.
Yeah. I do want to ask you a question though. How do you feel about Harold Fannin out of Bowling Green?
Very interesting. He would be higher on my board simply if we didn't have Isaiah Likely on the team.
Okay.
And just think about, like, my board is a Raven centric board. So I'm trying to think of how the Ravens would think. Fannin is a good comp to Isaiah Likely. Can you line him up in line and have him block defensive ends? That's not what you want. Fannin can block in space. He looks a little awkward when he moves, but he's an excellent receiver, excellent yak. So if you want to, Isaiah Likely's on the team. You could draft Harold Fannin, but my own personal opinion is that Likely will be extended, signed. He's going to be a Raven, I think, for the future. So I would think that they would want to complement Likely with a tight end that can block a little bit. So that's the short of it. But Fannin, man, he ran a 4.7 something. His knees are he's kind of pigeon toed. But put the ball in that man's hand, and he turns into one of the best athletes on the field. Just guys look like they don't want to tackle him. It's he's has an amazing knack of getting open. So Fannin is more of your big slot receiver and not your combination tight end.
Yeah, he was very fun to watch. A couple of nice one-handers in
And
there.
I see our buddy Jeremiah say, "I take another Likely." I mean, that's one way to slice it for sure, for sure. At this point, though, guys, really, we're not going to be having five tight ends slash Ricard. I'm counting Ricard in that group active on game day. So for us to draft a tight end, realistically, I mean, especially somebody like Fannin, who's probably going to go in the third round, we'd have to trade one of our tight ends. You're not going to have five tight ends active on the game day roster. It's just not going to work.
Unbelievable.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I do See, here's my thing, because we've talked about Mark Andrews at length on this podcast, especially following the Bills' loss in the divisional round. I definitely do believe that it's time. I've always been of the philosophy like, hey, I like when people say trade a guy a year early rather than a year late. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's time, man. I think it's time to give Isaiah Likely the keys to that tight end room. And I think that, what you said was great, Jason. I mean, like going out and packaging maybe a Kolar and maybe one of those later round picks, or if they swing for the fences, maybe they package Andrews. I don't know. Who knows, right? But either way, I think that the Ravens tight end room would be just fine with Isaiah Likely. I think that Lamar Jackson trusts Isaiah Likely more than ever at this point in their careers. So I don't know. I just think it's time to go ahead and see what you can get for a Mark Andrews, see what you can get for a Charlie Kolar, and kind of flip that room and just kind of rock out with Isaiah Likely. So that's where I'm at on it. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on here to another question that I have for you. So obviously you've got a ton of guys here on this big board that I'm getting ready to throw back up there in a second. But are there any, I guess you could say, like mid round or like sleeper prospects that you could see being a perfect Ravens fit, whether that be because of like their play style or whether that be because they match the culture of the Ravens, like, the whole play like a Raven thing? What are some of those guys? Who are some of those guys?
One guy I really liked it's play like a Raven all the way is Anthony Belton. He's listed as a tackle out of NC State, and you can see I have the stars around him, guys, that's my positional favorite. So you're going to see him higher on my board than you see on other boards. What I love about Anthony Belton is just what you're talking about, the physicality. He's a tackle. He's a left tackle. Simply talked about Mike Green earlier. Excellent pass rusher. Will probably go in the top half of this first round. Belton locked him up at the Senior Bowl pretty good a few times. But you're talking about a big, nasty type player who really moves people in the run game, yet has this unusual body control that I don't think he's getting enough credit for. I mean, he's 6'6", 336 pounds, plenty of length, but he's known as a bully, and he will pancake you. He will. If he's in a wrestling match, he wins that. The torque, the upper body strength of him to turn a man against his will is excellent. And I think that he's got the body control and the feet for a big guy to where he could play guard and be an upgrade there right for us. But, a lot of teams will have him as tackle. He played left tackle for NC State and just went to show at the Senior Bowl just how good of a natural pass protector he is. So I love Anthony Belton in that role. There are a number of players that fit the play like a Raven mentality, but he sticks out to me on that offensive line, just above all else, I think.
Yeah. Hey, Alex. So, do you have any draft crushes yourself? I know you brought up a couple of guys' names here on the stream, but like, are
Yeah.
there any guys that like a low key for you?
I don't want to make DWAS's night, but I do like Jacob Parrish out of Kansas State. I do like him. He's somebody who I was watching. They put him 1-on-1 on Island a couple of times, and he held his own. Obviously Ty Felton, but as was making my videos, Higgins out of Iowa State. There's this one play he made against Iowa where the defensive back quite literally had the ball in his hand. Higgins, he literally snatches it out of his hands and scores a touchdown. Like, I saw that, I'm like, that's a dog. Obviously, he's not gonna come to the Ravens probably because we're not gonna invest like that. But seeing guys like that, I know they're gonna have a nice career. And obviously, like I said, Ty Felton, any Maryland player, I'm gonna have a crush on. Unfortunately, watching him in the flesh. Let me go down my list real quick. I know I have one more. I think it was last night I was watching them.
Love both of those guys, by the way. Jacob Parrish, he's actually Kansas State, but dog, absolute
hmm,
dog at 5'10", 191. Runs a 4.35 DWAS. So this guy is not slow. He's fearless. And then Higgins, your guy, bro. He erases bad throws, which I love. His catch radius is awesome. And I actually, if I have any integrity, I should probably put him ahead of Emeka Ibuka. I think that's an X receiver all the way that could go in the first round and shock people on draft day.
and then my final one, I forget. I think it was a safety from Penn State. I like what I saw from him. Um,
Winston,
yes, yes, yeah, I like that. So I still got a little bit more videos to do, but all in all, man, just love watching these guys freaking play ball and just seeing the different types of colleges. You do a lot of research. Like I was watching some random games and some random television channels trying to find some film of these guys. But it's the beauty of the draft.
Yeah, it is. It is. Okay, so here's what I wanted to ask next. Uh, I do want to go and look at your actual the big board portion of it, not just the positional rankings. I want you to kind of break down some of what you put here. But before we get to that, I do have one last question for you here. So, if the Ravens were to trade up or down in the first round of this draft, which move in which direction would you say would make the most sense?
Definitely trade down. And I know fans don't want to hear that, but this draft is weaker at the top, stronger in the middle. So if they're, I tend to like to be aggressive, especially like the third round last year was something that frustrated me. We sat there and watched all those guards go off the board. It was like five or six of them that all
Yeah.
projected as starting guards. And we sat there. And of course, we got Adisa Isaac, which was a nice value pick. But, I'm just prefacing my answer by saying I'm usually pretty aggressive mindset. I want to get quality. I know there's an argument for quantity. The Ravens love quantity. But in this draft, if you can trade back and pick up an extra third round pick, so if you take your first round pick and you trade back into the mid 30s, the value for that is you're going to get that bad team's third round pick. So you're going to pick at the beginning of the third round somewhere. Um, if you can do that, you could end up with one, two, three, four starters coming out of this draft for the future and guys that would be top backups into year one. I think that you would seriously have to consider doing that because the level of prospect from, say, guy number 15 to guy number 35, 38, there's really no difference in this draft. It's not strong at the top. So once you get into those guys past the green, like Ezraku, Booker, Shamar Stewart, Kenneth Grant, if you scroll down, Maxwell Hairston, all those are excellent players. You could still get one of those at say pick 35, 36, and you would pick up a pick in the early 60s, or in the mid 60s, excuse me. I would say trade back would be my answer this year, and that's not something I would say every year, guys.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
and I see a lot of people agreeing in the chat as well. See, I got excuse me, we got our guy Stevo in here says trade back, use picks to move up in the third or the fourth. Jeremiah actually says he does not like trading back. I think that's the fan, like honestly, because I kind of have the same knee jerk reaction. Like, why would we trade back? We need an impact player, and you feel like you can only really get those guys, in the first round. Like that's your main opportunity to go ahead and do it because a lot of our first round picks in the past couple of seasons have actually been pretty good. They've panned out. So it's like it feels like we need that one. We need that pick, right? So I understand not wanting to trade back, but I also get what you guys are saying as well. That it would, there's a lot of meat and potatoes kind of like in the middle of this draft, right? Where you can kind of get some good value. So yeah, I like that. I like that. But I want you to go ahead and kind of explain what we're looking at here. We know this is your big board, how you think things may shake out. What I really kind of want to start with is when we're looking at the top 10, right? Top 5 to 10 picks. Do you think, or what do you think about the potential of having like an Abdul Carter come to the AFC North or like a Travis Hunter come to the AFC North? What are your thoughts on that?
They're both great players. They're both great players, and Carter's got that red cross next to him. He had an issue in his foot that they found at the combine, but like to me, it's like if he played like that with a hampered foot, I mean, this guy is awesome. Travis Hunter, what would he be on the Browns? Would they use him as a wide receiver? Would they use him as a corner? I never like to see great players in the division, but one of those two guys is probably going to go to the Browns if they don't take Shador Sanders. So, the possibility of it's a funny thing, guys. It's like they have Miles Garrett. Obviously, he decided to stay. So on one hand, you say, well, we'll take Travis Hunter because we already have an elite pass rusher. But if you pair Abdul Carter with Miles Garrett, then all of a sudden you have a super strength on your team in the
Yeah.
pass rush if you're the Cleveland Browns. So it's an interesting dichotomy versus versus need versus hey, let's have the best edge rusher tandem in the NFL.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Alex, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's the beauty of being bad, I guess. You get to have those decisions to make. Um, I'm so grateful we don't have to deal with that, and just we want this guy because of how bad we've been the past couple years. Um, but I'm looking at Travis Hunter. I'm not sure where he's gonna play. I know he was running receiver routes and obviously DB. Gonna be a good player no matter what. I'd rather him not be on the Browns, but if that's what it has to be, that's what it has to be. Um, but I would much rather I think deal with Hunter than deal with Carter and Miles Garrett 2 games a year. I'll be completely honest with you. I
Yeah.
don't want to deal with that, especially with question marks on the line. I feel like our tackles can hold their own, but they're gonna get theirs eventually against us.
Sutton, if that's what you were asking me specifically, I agree with Alex. I apologize if that's was the question. Like, I think we can move away from Hunter, and you know what I mean, and double team him if
Mm,
we need to, or not throw in his direction. But there's nothing you can't chip both Miles Garrett and Abdul Carter. Somebody's
nope.
getting one on ones. So yeah, that would scare me.
Absolutely. Real quick side note, guys. I don't know if you guys heard about this. There was some rumblings coming out of Pittsburgh this morning about T.J. Watt. In his contract situation. Apparently, the word on the street is that T.J. Watt wants more than Miles Garrett, which the Steelers do not want to oblige. So it's just he posted something on his Instagram story today with like him holding up the peace sign or something like that, and so people were kind of starting to talk about it. Um, Interesting to say the least, but what do you guys think about T.J. Watt potentially maybe moving out of the AFC North? Who knows? Who knows?
I mean, that would make my off season. To be honest, like, it's not just that he's good, but T.J. Watt. I don't know. In my opinion, I've seen many plays where he looks like he's trying to injure his opponents. Uh, so
Mm,
yeah, I'd get him away from as far away from the Ravens as possible. I would love that. I don't care if they get their quarterback in the future; they're going to eventually hit on the quarterback sooner or later. So we got Lamar Jackson. Bring it on. Let's get rid of T.J. Watt.
hmm. Feel it, feel it. Almost 100 people watching live. Thank y'all so much for coming out to this
Thank
episode 306 of PRP. Again, we got our guy Jason from at Huddle It Up Films. Make sure you follow him, subscribe to him on YouTube as well. This big board that you are seeing on the screen that I'm popping in and out, that is his big board. So make sure you go ahead and check that out. You can go to his Twitter to find the link to it. Again, at Huddle It Up Films, like you see right there on the screen. Again, thank you for coming on, bro.
Man, I
All
love
right.
it. Thank you.
So we do have another super chat donation. This one's coming from DWAS again, dropping another two-piece in the chat. Thank you so much, DWAS. We appreciate you, brother. Says we should draft Shiloh Sanders in the 7th round. To this, what say you, Jason? What is your assessment on Shiloh? And we can kind of talk about the whole Sanders, like is Shador, all that. What's your thoughts?
I actually really like Shiloh. I wish he was a better. I wish he was took better angles tackling, and was a more sure football player. But he plays his heart out, and I'm sure that's what DWAS loves about him. Like, I could see him playing on special teams as a backup safety, and in earning his keep and being active on game day. He plays. He's a very aggressive player. It's just mind-boggling bad angles in the tackling. So I think that you could do worse in the 7th round. I mean, look at the way we've kind of quote unquote wasted some picks at the back end when you're talking about Ben Mason, Caillou Blue Kelly, Sala,
Mm,
just guys that I was not happy that we wasted or used draft capital on those guys. Shiloh, at least I can see a role. He is a bad man, and he comes with bad intentions. Plays the game hard, plays the game the right way. Uh, maybe you can iron out some tackling issues and bring him in the 7th round.
yeah,
I'll
no
throw one
doubt.
up there too, Devin Leary as well. I mean, the list goes on and on. Like if you go down like our picks, just like wow, like you were just a waste of a pick, unfortunately. Really no direction where they were going with this team. But as for the 7th round, it'd be cool to get another standards on the team, just like, maybe we're number 37, like his dad did for us. That'd be cool. Um, but if you do want to go talk about the whole Sanders stuff right now, I'll tell you what, I hope Shador goes to New Orleans. I'll say it. I would love to see him play in
Mm,
the Superdome with the whole Derek Carr stuff coming out now. Uh, I just
yeah,
think
yeah.
not switching colors from Colorado. I would like that a lot, and I hope he goes to New Orleans. I really do.
Me too. There's something about Shador that screams. He kind of fits the Steelers, and I feel like that if he made it to the Steelers, they would love him because he's just a pain in the what to play. It doesn't look pretty. He doesn't have the big arm. He doesn't have the great mobility. He doesn't have these wow skills, but he finds a way to get it done. And it almost reminds me of like when we played the Steelers. Like, how are these guys doing it? We got the better roster. Why aren't we blowing these guys off the field like we did the last two games, by the way? So it finally came our way. But Shador matches the Steelers in that way, where it doesn't look pretty, but he gets it done. And I think, Slut, you kind of alluded to this. Maybe it's your follow up question. But I think, with Shador, it's impossible to ignore Dion's influence and power that he has. I mean, Dion is more popular, just figuratively speaking, than some of these NFL teams. So if we saw Dion at the Colorado Pro Day, the scouts trying to line these guys up. He's trying to get them to stand a certain way for their 40-yard dash. Dion comes over, don't listen to that man, do it your way.
Yeah.
Like if you're the Cleveland Browns, is that the type of pressure that you want on your organization, where Dion's basically has more pull and influence than because your franchise has not been very good. So you put Shador in a stable franchise with the Steelers with a respected coach like Mike Tomlin with a respected organization. Maybe that's a better fit. So that whole like where Shador goes, I think is going to be the national story of draft night. If he goes to the Steelers, I would not like it because I think highly of Shador as a quarterback. I think he's getting a bad rep in this draft. Very effective. He just doesn't have the physical tools of a Lamar, of a Josh Allen, of the top quarterbacks. But that guy knows how to win.
Yeah, I honestly do not think that he goes a spot below ninth. I just don't. Like, I think that the New Orleans Saints, I agree with Alex. I think that they go full fledged, full force for Shador Sanders. I think it's at that time, like you said, the dome, that it just makes sense. They're at that time now where like you have to ask yourself a question like, do we really think we can get it done? And when I say get it done, I mean win a Super Bowl or at least contend for a championship with Derek Carr. If the answer to that question is no, then it makes all the sense in the world to go ahead and just move on, pick up the pieces with a brand new quarterback who is got a lot of potential. And like you said, Jason, I mean, like the guy just he knows how to play the game. My only issue with him is that he doesn't have that athleticism that I think you would probably need, especially playing as a young quarterback in the AFC North. I think that guys like Trey Hendrickson would get after him heavy. I think that guys like, of course, Myles Garrett and if Abdul Carter, whatever. You know, I just. And then, of course, the Ravens defense is always going to be a puzzle for rookie quarterbacks as well, like younger quarterbacks. So I just think that he would be a much better fit with New Orleans. And I think that with this whole Derek Carr situation with the unknown, what was it, a surgery he had to have, or just like a shoulder thing that he was dealing with, that just came out over the weekend. Like with that news coming out, I think that the Saints should go full force for Shador Sanders for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna back that up too. If you look at just the divisions, I think the NFC South is still wide open. I think the Bucks are the
Yeah.
best team, but it wouldn't surprise me if you get some lightning in the bottle and there you are contending for a wild card spot, maybe the division, rather than him coming here, with a bunch of just the Bengals are gonna be good. Obviously, we're gonna be good, and the Browns are the Browns. But I feel like if you're the Saints, it kind of makes sense because I'm not the biggest fan of Rattler, but you can throw him out there maybe for the first couple of games. Let Shador sit behind him if it's like that, and you want him to just get some game time behind. But I think it just makes too much sense for New Orleans now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
For
Shador's
sure.
smart. He's just such a ball player. I just wouldn't like it if he went to Pittsburgh. I hope New
Yeah.
Orleans makes him.
Yeah. Let me see. Our guy Don Royal in the house says Shador is better than Trevor, overrated on AW. I don't know what he was trying to say there, but better than Trevor Lawrence. I'm assuming you're saying, or okay, maybe I don't know. Trevor Lawrence. Is it safe to say that Trevor Lawrence is a bust, or no?
Yeah, I don't know. He's so up and down. Remember that Jaguars game we played a couple of years ago? We barely beat him. He was making all these crazy throws, and I'm like, wait, this doesn't make sense. This isn't the guy I've seen before. And then he just kind of crumbles. He's a very hard player to gauge for me, Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. Speaking of remaining on the actually Alex, you had something for me about Trevor, or
With Trevor, I just remember watching, was it 21 or 22 playoffs? Like he went into Arrowhead and he gave it everything. I'm like, okay, the Jags they're gonna be a force to be reckoned with next year. It just didn't happen. I just don't know what happened since that game and now. I would love to see him do good, but yeah, I'm not sure what's going on down there in Jacksonville.
yeah, yeah. Staying on the subject of quarterbacks, I want our guy Jason to kind of give us his assessment on the quarterbacks just in general in this upcoming draft. There's a couple of we didn't really touch on, like the Jackson Darts of the world, Cam Wards. What is kind of your assessment top down of the quarterbacks in this year's draft? And I'll go ahead and put the board back on screen.
Yes, I don't think it's not a superstar draft. I think Cam Ward could be one of those guys that has the tools to carry you, like a Lamar. Just think. I always compare quarterbacks now to the guys that don't need a lot around them to win. I think Cam Ward's that guy. Jalen Milrow could be that guy, but his accuracy at this point is not ready for the NFL. Jalen Milrow, extremely frustrating player to watch. There's times where he just cannot hit his targets and it's not close. But overall, this is a very boring, I would say, quarterback draft. Um, you don't have the polarizing guys. Shador's the most polarizing by far. But I see a lot of guys who are backup type quarterbacks that don't have a high ceiling. Tyler Shuck has got some really nice tools, but he's also, I think, 26 years old this year. Has been through it
Yeah.
all. Kyle McCord's got some tools. Will Howard. He goes guys like Ewers and Gabriel. They're just you just have a hard time seeing them be like a top quarterback in this league. So uh, I think it's a draft like the second round is a good round to target some of these guys where you just take a shot, bring them in, see what they have. But Cam Ward is the only guy that I see as a franchise changing, dynamic quarterback, with Shador Sanders being the guy that you can build around and just give teams hell on his rookie quarterback contract.
Interesting. And what do you say would be what is Cam Ward's like? What's his NFL comp for one, and two? Like, what tools do you think that he really possesses that make him, eligible for that moniker of like franchise changing quarterback?
I'd like, and I didn't study the quarterbacks thoroughly, obviously, because we have Lamar. But
Yeah.
one thing when in looking at Cam Ward that you see is these comeback victories that he has. You see his ability to make plays off schedule, which is huge to me because no matter how good of an offensive line you have, no matter how good of a play caller you have, people win. People on the defense win. Your first guy is covered. A guy misses a block. Now it's up to you as a quarterback. Are you going to take a sack, which is a big knock on Shador, by the way? Takes too many sacks. Cam
Mm,
Ward can escape that. He can make a play on the run, and his comeback victories speak for himself. I do not have those stats off the top of my head, but Cam Ward has come back again and again. The problem is, look, you don't want a quarterback who puts you behind in a game. Cam Ward can make his share of mistakes, but he has the ability to take over a game. Unlike Shador, and then Jackson Dart is just kind of he gets those Jalen Hurts comparisons. I think that's pretty accurate. And then with Milrow, you could have a franchise type guy with all the skills that you want, or he might just not be playable because of his arm, of his accuracy in particular.
yeah, yeah. Alex, who are some of your favorite quarterbacks coming out of this draft that you've seen?
I mean, I don't have a lot of favorites. I'll be honest with you. I I have more like who I dislike more than I like. Ewers, Gabriel. I never saw it in college. Watched a good amount of them. I mean, Ward obviously is the best. Got no problem with Sanders. I wouldn't. I don't want Jackson Dart to go to the Steelers either. I think he would actually be pretty good for them. I'm not gonna lie. Um, but with that being said, it's nice that we don't have to care about quarterbacks as Ravens fans. We have our guy, we have a backup, and we can roll with it. But I'm just happy that we also don't have to sit here and be like, all right, is this the guy that's going to change our franchise? Is this the guy? Is it this year? Are we finally to get somebody? Because the Titans, they take Will Levis. You think maybe he's the guy. It doesn't work out. Now it's Cam Ward. So, um, yeah, I'm not really watching a lot of them because thankfully we're lucky not we don't have to be honest.
So I
Yeah,
have a question for you.
yeah.
You're on the clock at 27, and it's the Cleveland Browns calling, and they took Travis Hunter, or Abdul Carter, and they want to trade up to get Jalen Milrow, whose upside is huge. My guy Yuri in the comments loves him. Do you make that trade? and go back in the second round where you're going to get a good player. Maybe the board's falling great to you. Hey, if we trade back to 34 or wherever the Browns pick, 34, 35, we're only going back 8 spots. We got 8 guys that we love. One of them is going to be there, and we get the Browns for third round pick. Do you do that and give them a shot at a quarterback who is a boom or bust type in Jalen Milrow?
Yeah, I think that I would do that, and I think that Eric DaCosta would also do that as well. As well. I think he would totally trade back. Just to speaking of what we were talking about earlier in the show. I mean, like you mentioned, like there's a lot of guys like in the thick of this draft, like in the middle of it, right, who have a lot of value, and I think that even with the Ravens having 11 picks to begin with, they still would love to compile and stash more down the line. I think if it was like a live scenario where this is happening, I think that Eric DaCosta would not hesitate at all to take that deal, and just go ahead and let them take their risk, and then also get more picks, in like that 30s range, like you said, maybe only move back like 8 spots or something like that. But like if we get more picks and more chances, then I think they would go for it. But my only issue with it is this: like we've seen over the past couple of seasons, and this is something we also talked about earlier in the show. Um, some of our later round picks, like those like third round and beyond, have just not hit. In some of these past seasons, so I don't want us to necessarily put a whole lot of stock and a whole lot of faith into whatever the Ravens do rounds 4 through the end of it, because that those guys probably aren't getting a whole lot of playing time to begin with. So it's just there has to be, if there's somebody that you really love and they got taken right before 27, then yeah, I can see trading back. But if you have somebody there who you absolutely love as best player available, maybe it is like a Malachi Starks or somebody else who's best player at their position, but maybe it's just not a premium position because those are gone by pick 27. I say you take him. So it depends. It all depends on who's there. It all depends on who's there at the time. But in short, I do think that Eric DaCosta would prefer to go ahead and move back just to get an extra pick. So yeah, that's how I answer that. But
I got too much
go
hate in
ahead.
my heart for that. I'm sorry. I got way too much hate in my heart. I mean, you've seen it before. I feel like that's my biggest gripe, I think, with the Bills. Like, the Bills sit there and let the Chiefs low bro them year after year after year in the draft. And I think in Mahomes, they get worthy. Like, this is a team that you have made the Super Bowl with your guy because of them, you know? So, I'm not doing it. Not doing it.
I love
Somebody
it.
else.
I
Somebody else.
love it. Like, and to Slut's point, I would like if we trade back in the first, I think it's a really good move. But then get aggressive later. Get aggressive later. Like move up later. We don't need all. I don't think we need all 11 picks. So if you trade back, you pick up a 12th pick. It's like the 64th pick or something. That's a great pick. That's a starter. But then as we get into the fourth or the fifth, let's try to trade back in and get in on that last call for good players a haul. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do have a question for you, real quick. Do
Yeah.
you think we see a running back day 3?
I would say 50-50. This running back class is known as a good one, and I see why. There are guys that I'm trying to get on my board that I just don't have room for, and I'm like, what do I do? Taj Brooks out of Texas Tech, Kyle Monagai out of Rutgers, 2 guys I really liked. I'm like, man, I got to get these guys on my board. Jadon Blue is like my next to last running back listed, or last running back listed. He ran into 4.2s. If they think that they can get an upgrade from Rasheen Ali, I think they would consider it, or at least to compete with Rasheen Ali. And I don't think Ali did bad, but the point of it is we drafted Ali in the 5th round, and if we could take a running back in the 7th round, who's a better prospect than Ali was last year. So it's just that it's a good draft to replenish your running back room and a position that the Ravens do not need. So, on the big board, I faded Ashton Genty. I faded a Marion Hampton because I don't see any scenario in which the Ravens take a running back in the first. I don't think anybody would disagree with me on that. So I faded them down my rated Raven-centric board. But once you get into that 4th, 5th, not 4th maybe, but 5th, 6th, 7th rounds, I could see them bringing in somebody that they think, quite frankly, is better than Rasheen Ali, or could be.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Let me see. I wanted to ask you about Ashton Genty. You said you faded him, but I want to know because a lot of people are mocking him to the Cowboys, right? And I think that that would actually be like the perfect fit for him. And quite frankly, I mean, you think back to the last time the Dallas Cowboys had like really like they were real contenders. Like they were actually like a really scary team. Um, it was back when they had a dominant run game, you know. And if you have Ashton Genty back there, I think that he could probably turn that franchise around in a couple different ways with, you know, his explosive running ability. But what are your thoughts on Ashton Genty, and if he did go to the Cowboys?
I love them. I'd be really happy if all four of those running backs at the top there, with Marion Hampton, Travion Henderson, and Quentin Judkins, you can include all four of them. If they go to the NFC, sign me up, because I think that they all are good players, and they're the kind of players that can run you out of cover two. They can make you load the box. They can make you play more man defense because they're just that good. And we saw a little bit of a resurgent with the running back position last year. Ashton Genty, if he went to the Cowboys, that would be a great move for them. I actually think that he might be worthy of the fourth pick. And that's
Mm.
something not people, man, I haven't seen anybody say that. But you take Cam Ward, you take Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter off the board, and you're the Patriots and you're picking fourth. That may seem too early for a running back. Yeah, it probably is. But if you're not sold on the tackles in that part of the draft, and you're not a big fan of Mason Graham or any of the wide receivers, then why wouldn't you take the best offensive player on the board to give their quarterback Drake May a running game, which Ashton Genty will give you not only a running game but catches passes out of the backfield, excellent in pass pro. The pass protection of the top four backs are also very, very good. So yeah, I love Ashton Genty. If he went to the Cowboys, I think that'd be a great move for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, what are your thoughts on Genty?
I mean, you watch him; it's like a video game. Like he was playing just like so much better than everybody else. Like you turn all the stats up, and every Boise State game, it just felt like he just spawned in with 200 yards. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I think you make a good point though that that's something I feel like the Cowboys do need. You know, when they went out and got Zeke, Zeke was taking over the league. And I'm not
Yeah,
saying that I'm not going to try to put those expectations, but that a good running back can do a whole lot of good for your offense and taking the pressure off a quarterback and letting CD cook. With a good running back, I think that's perfect for them. So as a football fan, I kind of hope it happens, but very possibly, he's not there when the Cowboys are drafted. So either way,
yeah,
though, I mean, good thing you bring up about the research to the running back. Derrick
yeah,
Henry, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, 3 for 3.
yeah.
Shows that you can pay these guys and they're still going to produce, and I don't see them falling off.
Yeah, the resurgence of running backs are real. I mean, you got Bijan who's coming up now too. There's a lot of guys, so I definitely think that now is the time to go ahead and get a young star running back in the room. In the room if you're Dallas, and just kind of see what that does for Dak. See what that does for. I think it really just turns up the city more than anything. Like having like a star player on offense, that's what you need in Dallas. Like you need that sort of juice, so to say. But yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and leave it there for this episode of the show, episode 306 of PRP, as we still have over 100 people watching live. Thank y'all so much for coming
Thank
out to this
thank you.
episode, featuring our guy Jason from at Huddle It Up Films. We got a lot of good insight from our guy here. So if you're just tuning into the stream, if maybe you're watching on Twitter, come on over to YouTube. Check us out on YouTube. Rewind it, go back to the beginning of it, and you're going to hear all of the great takes from the great Jason from at Huddle It Up Films. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Huddle It Up Films, or X, whatever you want to call it. But make sure you go on his YouTube and look at some of his more recent videos. He was just on a podcast with Bobby and Sarah from The Vault, right?
That's
Um,
exactly right. And I'm going on tonight at 9 p.m. too. I wanted to mention that before I forgot. So,
nice.
50 minutes from now, if you guys want to hop onto my channel, we're going to talk about what qualities do you want in each position. This is something I would love to get your guys' take on. I don't know what you're doing in 50 minutes, but hop on in if you want. But so, we're talking about like in the mid rounds. So, not your top guy who can do a lot of everything. But mid round, wide receiver, what qualities do you want? And I made slides where I listed 5 qualities for each position. And I'm going to let my guest tonight, Alec Polianis, he only gets to pick 2 of those 5. So, what do you want out of a wide receiver? What do you want if we draft a defensive lineman? What do you want? And go through the positions. So, that's on the agenda tonight.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you guys heard it here first. Make sure you check out at Huddled Up Films on YouTube. He's going live tonight. Probably won't be able to make it through tonight personally. I got some things to take care of, but I did want to use this opportunity to mention this. We will be live together on the first night of the draft. We're going to be doing a collab stream, so you're not done seeing Jason here on PRP. He's going to be back here on Thursday. We'll actually be collabing together, so it'll look a little bit different, but we're all going to be here together talking about it, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Just kind of seeing what happens in real time and seeing your reactions, Jason. Because I'm sure, I mean, again, you've been studying this stuff. You said you've gotten you've studied like 40 more guys this year than last year, something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, so you're kind of like, you're going to be very shocked. I know every single pick is going to mean something to you, so it's going to be funny kind of streaming together on that one. I can't wait. Make sure you guys go ahead and tune in to at Huddled Up Films again on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to that channel and this channel as well to make sure you can stay updated on when that's going to be coming out. Obviously, when the draft comes next Thursday. What time does the draft start? Was it like 8 p.m. or something like that?
It's eight day one and then 7 o'clock day two.
Got it. Yeah. So yeah,
I'll see real
you know
quick.
when to tune in. Sure.
I don't know who you guys watch for like the draft. But I think day 3 is always like the coolest. Like they always have like the little cool segments on the side. Because day 1 is just like who's going top 3. You know what I mean? And these take forever and ever. Like day 2 and day 3.
Yeah. It definitely takes a while. I mean, I know all of our draft streams that we've done, they've been like what? It takes like 3 hours,
Yeah.
right, just to get through round 1.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But we'll be here. Of course, we have the benefit of being Ravens fans, so we're always going to have to wait for our team to make their selection. And it'll be no different this year. But make sure you tune into the channel because we will all be here streaming together. But again, just want to give a huge shout out to our guy, Jason, again, for coming through. Jason, shout out to you, man. We appreciate it. You are the guy. Again, our Mel Kiper. Thank you so much for putting on today.
Thank you. It's got the Mel Kiper hair. Not as entertaining as Mel, but the hairline's fading, guys. It's a little sad right there.
Oh man, I can't even see it. I can't see it from here. So we're just gonna go ahead and move forward. Thanks so much again. And you can follow us on Instagram or Twitter at the Purple Rain Podcast. Subscribe to the channel. Like the video if you did enjoy the content that you just consumed. Also, again, our sponsor Manscaping. Go on manscaped.com. Use our code PRP. Save yourself 20% off plus free international shipping on whatever you want from that lovely website. But with that being said, my name is Sutton Def. I'm gonna let my guy Alex take us out.
Thank you for spending your Monday evening with us. We truly love you and appreciate you. And as always, stay positive, test negative.
Yes. And never, ever forget, even on the rainiest of days, to call God. It's been episode 306 of PRP. We're going to catch you guys in the next one. Peace.